What's up guys, Asian here again with another build video, and today we're going to be going over the Stamina Nightblade DPS. Stamina Nightblade has pretty much stayed right where it has been in terms of comparison to other classes, with the drop in DPS to the Stamina Warden. The Stamina Nightblade has kind of bumped up a little bit, so Stamina Necromancers are still the top Stamina DPS class. Right now, just because of the major vulnerability that it provides. Sorks got moved up quite a bit as well due to a couple of changes, just kind of general changes to DPS as well as specific changes to Sorks. Nightblades didn't get that many changes. The major one is the fact that your bow proc now lasts for 60 seconds instead of 30 seconds, so you can get more spambles out. But beyond that, not much has changed with Nightblades. They've always traditionally have excelled in direct damage, and with this focus now back towards spammable damage, you will find that Nightblades are kind of the top, not necessarily the best stamina DPS, but among probably one of the top three, right up there with Sorks. So just like the rest of our build videos, we will not be going over any gear in this video. This video will be strictly about the skills and the rotation. So if you want to know what gear I'm running, feel free to pause this video now and go ahead and click on the video that should be popping up in the upper right hand corner right now. That will bring you to the Stamina DPS gear video so you guys can know what sets you can run on a Stamina DPS. Once you have that down, you can come back here and we'll talk about the skills and the overall rotation of the Stamina Nightblade. So let's go ahead and get started here with our front bar. This is a dual wield build. Stamina Nightblades will be better off running a dual wield setup than a two-handed setup in my experience. Two-handed is about 3k behind. So in terms of abilities on our front bar, this is the dual wield bar. We have Killer's Blade, Rapid Strikes. Now you can run the class spamble surprise attack instead of Rapid Strikes if you'd like. Rapid Strikes does deal more damage in terms of raw damage that it's able to deal, but it is a little bit finicky sometimes with weaving. At the very least, I sometimes have issues with weaving it when I have to activate synergies and all that stuff. So you might want to swap out a surprise attack. The DPS difference is overall pretty small, so it's kind of up to you which one you want to go for. Then we have Rending Slashes. You can replace this with any other ability that we'll go over in a little bit here, like a self-heal or something. But if you're just looking to just do some more damage, Rending Slashes is a solid option here. Relentless Focus, Barbed Trap, and Incapacitating Strike here. We're not using Flawless Dawnbreaker mainly for convenience. So while Flawless Dawnbreaker is in theory the stronger option here, Incapacitating Strike, as you guys can notice from the tooltip, does have a cast time associated with it. So while previous iterations of this build, before the cast time was on Incapacitating Strike, had Flawless Dawnbreaker on the front bar, with this cast time it actually becomes a little bit more difficult to bar swap cancel, or in fact it becomes almost impossible to swap cancel out of Incapacitating Strike on the back bar, so it's easier just to put it on the front bar here. While we have it on the front bar, we also get the Reeve passive, which helps out our sustain. Plus, it's not like we lose all damage. We do get 2% additional crit chance while we have Incapacitating Strike slotted from the Assassination passive Executioner, or not Executioner, Pressure Points. So you're still getting some DPS out of it by having Incapacitating Strike on the front bar. Then on the back bar, we have Soul Trap, Poison Injection, Arrow Barrage. We have Barbed Trap. Again, this is a flex spot, as you guys can tell, because we have double Barred Trap here. And then Dark Shade. Dark Shade does scale off of our highest offensive stat, which is why we're using it. It also helps our stamina sustain because it ends up using magicka rather than stamina. Then we have Incapacitating Strike here. You will notice that we did end up dropping Leeching Strikes. If you're having trouble sustaining, you can put on Leeching Strikes here in place of Barb Trap on the back bar. But with the fact that we are able to use Soul Trap and Dark Shade, we don't really need to run Leeching Strikes if you're running something like our Tam Takeaway Broth for sustain. So it's kind of up to you whether you want to run Leeching Strikes or not. If you are going to run it on the back bar, just replace Barb Trap on the back bar with Leeching Strikes. Going back to our front bar here, there might be a few abilities that you might want to swap out. So again, Rapid Strikes, you might want to swap this out with Surprise Attack. You might find it a little bit easier to weave Surprise Attack, plus it also has a shared debuff, so it reduces physical resistance by 5% if you hit enemies on the flank. So that might be beneficial to help reduce the amount of CPs your stamina DPS might need to run. Not necessarily going to be consistent depending on a specific boss, but it's still useful to have that option there. But beyond that, there's not really any other active abilities that you want to run on a Nightblade. You do have two very good ultimates though. You have Bolstering Darkness for major protection, so you might want to run this depending on the specific strategies that you're running for your group. Most commonly, I'll see this being used in progression group to help deal with high damage scenarios. And we have Soul Siphon, again, kind of same scenario with the whole good for progression groups, but you're obviously not going to necessarily be running this if you're going for speed runs or anything like that, just raw damage. This just provides a bunch of burst heals, a heal over time, major vitality, and another synergy that provides another burst heal. So overall, just raw healing with Soul Siphon, which can be very useful in progression style stuff here. But moving on from that, you are not going to be running Rolling Blades at all because we have an Execute through Killer's Blade, which is definitely stronger to use. If you need some major evasion, you can also use a Blade Cloak, so you can run Blade Cloak instead of running Slashes here if you prefer. This is actually not terrible in terms of damage. You are giving up some damage, but overall not that much. In terms of actual DPS, Blade Cloak, Deadly Cloak specifically, might end up being a little bit stronger than rending Slashes here. So just keep that in mind here. So actually, we will actually use Deadly Cloak here, just so you guys can get a sense of how much DPS we're able to pull with Deadly Cloak. Let's see here. Bow Bar, not much here. Nothing under armor. We talked about Soul Trap. Fighter's Guild line. We have Ringer Preservation, which provides minor protection and a small heal over time. Really useful for situations where you're going to be stacked up together to deal with high damage scenarios or execute scenarios. So, for example, Lokkestiiz hard mode, you might run Ringer Preservation to help deal with the static from the beam phase, the flying phase. On from there, Shadow Silk potentially if you want to help provide additional synergies for your stamina DPS to help proc Lokkestiiz. And under the Alliance War line, this is probably the last ability, I think. It's going to be Echoing Vigor for a self-heal. This is really nice because it can also stack with other people's Echoing Vigors as well. So if you have 2 or 3 stamina DPS and you all get caught by each other's Echoing Vigors, basically have 3 Echoing Vigor heal ticks going on over the whole duration. So that actually ends up being more healing done per second compared to just running Resolving Vigor on each of the 3 stamina DPS. So I would highly recommend picking up Echoing Vigor and not Resolving Vigor for the fact that you can kind of stack it, quasi-stack it with other people. Well, that is pretty much it for all the skills here. So kind of review here on the front bar. Killer's Blade and then a spammable, either Rapid Strikes or Surprise Attack, pick whichever one you'd like. Here you have a flex spot here, so I'm using Deadly Cloak here, but you can do something like running Slashes. You can replace this with a self-heal like Vigor if you'd like. The bow proc, Relentless Focus, Barbed Trap, Incapacitating Strike. So you have one flex spot here, and then one quasi-flex for your spammable. And on the back bar, you have Soul Trap, Poison Injection, Arrow Barrage. You have a flex spot here with Barbed Trap. You can replace this with something like Leeching Strikes if you need the additional sustain, or the self-heal like Echoing Vigor. Dark Shade, so these 4 abilities are not flex really. You can arguably swap out Dark Shade. It's probably the smallest contribution to overall DPS, so you can swap this out if you'd like. But because it uses Magicka, you will see your sustain drop a fairly significant amount just by not running Dark Shade there. So just keep that in mind. If you drop Dark Shade, you will probably need to run Leeching Strikes in its place in order to fully sustain your light attack rotation. Then Incap on the back bar. So moving on to the explanation of the rotation. For those of you guys who have played Nightblades in the past, nothing much has changed. It's still a dynamic rotation centered around getting the bow proc off. So the way the bow proc works for new players is that after 5 light attacks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you get a bow proc and you basically shoot it off right away. The main premise behind a Nightblade rotation is essentially maximizing the amount of bow procs you get per cast of Relentless Focus. So for example, let's go ahead and start our back bar rotation. So that's pretty much it. So you're just basically keeping an eye on your dots. So if you need to break your back bar rotations, like right here, do so. Finish up any back bar dots you need to do, and then go back to your rotation. So it is going to be dynamic because you will be breaking up your back bar rotation to basically activate your bow proc when it goes off. So one thing you might have noticed when I was doing the bow proc was I was actually not doing 5 light attacks and then bow. I'm doing 4 light attacks, then light weave into the bow proc. So what do I mean by that? So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. So a lot of people that I've seen when I try to help out with Nightblade rotations actually do a 5th light attack first, and then they do light attack bow proc. So something that you might see would be something like this. Using a spindle here. They actually get the bow proc going, they use another ability, and then they actually fire the bow after it is procced. You want to avoid doing that because you're basically wasting a global cooldown. So you're getting less bow procs basically by doing so. What you want to do is you want to do 1, 2, 3, 4. And once you get up to 4 stacks of Relentless Focus, you want to do light weave into your bow proc. So you do light attack, bow proc. So this is what it looks like when you're weaving an ability. So I'm just going to use Rapid Strikes here. So instead of looking like this, so this is what you don't want to have happen. You want to do something like this instead. So 1, 2, 3, 4, light weave bow proc. And that'll get you more bow procs going because you're basically saving a light attack for another stack of a bow proc that way. So as you guys are watching the 21 million dummy parse, just keep an eye on that so you guys can actually get a sense of how I'm doing that. And that does tie into our dynamic rotation here. Once you have 4 stacks, and let's say you're on your back bar, and you're maybe like halfway through, let's say you managed to do Air Barrage, Soul Trap, and your Shade, but now you have 4 stacks. You swap to your front bar, you light weave into your bow, swap back to your back bar, finish up with your poison injection, and then go back to your front bar and just sort of continue on from there. So it's a little bit dynamic, so please don't ask for written rotation because I'm just going to tell you there is none. It's a dynamic rotation. There is no static rotation if you want to maximize your DPS. So please don't ask for a static rotation for this particular build. So with all that said and done, we're going to go ahead and do a 21 million dummy parse. So I have done quite a few parses already. 1 is a warm-up, and 2 just to kind of test a couple of different skill combinations that I have here. So I'll be able to show you guys kind of a few other parses with different skill setups here so you guys can get an idea of kind of how much fluctuation you can see in your overall DPS. Spoiler alert, it's actually not that big. So let's go ahead and get started here. Oh, I actually forgot to activate. So actually, you always want to start off with having Relentless Focus active, so I did not have that active, so I am going to go ahead and reset the dummy here and actually activate the Relentless Focus here before I do the parse. Only time you will not actually do the 4 then bow proc is if you end up getting your incap up. There's kind of a pattern behind this, as you guys can probably tell from the order I'm doing in backward rotation. And right into the bow proc there. Get my bow proc off and renew before doing back by rotation. You always want to try to get that bow proc off when you have that incap going, so you get the extra damage bonus from it. Again, swap to your front bar, get the bow proc off, and then finish the back bar rotation. See there. At 4, you went to the front bar. forward to the front bar there. Want to get the incap before we get the bow proc off. And the bow proc off here first. So once we get into execute, we're actually going to drop all of our dots, except for our barrage and poison injection. So drop, and I'll say that again once we get in execute range, which is around 25%. Get the bow prop off here. Bow prop before we go to the back bar. Bow prop again. We're getting close to getting into our execute rotation. So we're actually going to drop all of our dots except for air barrage, trap, and poison injection, and just spam our killer's blade here. We're not even going to use our bow proc here. It's just strictly air barrage, poison injection, trap for the minor force, then just keep on killer's blade in. Obviously going to use incap when it gets up, but that's pretty much it for execute. Very simple execute rotation here. There we go. So there you have it. That is the Stamina Nightblade rotation there. Again, execute's very simple. You just got to maintain 3 dots, arrow barrage, poison injection, and your minor force. So barbed trap here, and then just keep on using your killer's blade here. That's one of the reasons why Stamina Nightblades are still very strong, because killer's blade is still a very strong ability here. So here's our parts here, 82.9. So Deadly Cloak is actually going to be the strongest option for that sort of flex spot that we mentioned in the front bar here. Other builds I've pulled, as you guys can see here, pulled just around 80k or so. The highest out of all these is 80.9k, and this was with rending slashes and surprise attack on the front bar here. I got to look at another one here. This is that's a Nightblade, Magic Nightblade. Probably don't want that. Here you have 78.9. This is with surprise attack and a fighter's guild ability. If you want to run ring of preservation, for example. This one was also very similar with rapid strikes and rending slashes. So you can see here that with Deadly Cloak and rapid strikes, this is going to be probably the best setup here in terms of raw DPS. 82.9k overall DPS. But that concludes this build video. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave them down in the comment section below, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. Hope you guys found this video informative, and I'll see you guys in the next dungeon.